The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
All right, I'm here with Karen Pincombe. Now, Karen's pretty special. I was there at your wedding all of those years ago. Karen, we've been friends for 3 decades. You're also on the board of the food bank, which is awesome. You've been so tremendous for us. But I wonder if you can just, before we get into talking about Arts for All Kids, which is a very special program, I wonder if you could just give us a bit of your background.
I'm actually a professional musician. I'm a percussionist, and I've played with Orchestra London and various orchestras within southwestern Ontario, and I've done some solo work on the West Coast and here. I have a master's in percussion performance from U of T, as well as my Bachelor of Education from Western. I taught for the Thames Valley Board for 29 years, teaching elementary kids music. And as you said, I've been on the board, and I can't even remember how long, because I think I came on pretty close to the beginning. I wasn't there at the very, very beginning, but almost. I go to Wesleyan Auction United Church, and yes, we've been friends for so long. It's hard you kind of blink and it's gone. And I still remember you standing up with Brian at our wedding, and it was a very special day. So
yeah, no, that was great. But because of your music background, because of what you do, I know when the food bank first got going, we had a discussion, you and I did, and you really worried about the fact that kids from low-income families weren't often able to afford music lessons or things like that. So you came up with this idea called Arts for All Kids. And I just wonder if you can just talk about those beginning days and just how you were feeling about it and why you wanted to do it. And then we can get in and start talking about the program itself.
Okay. I had always felt that arts lessons, whether it's music or anything else, were really important. My parents, as an adult now, I wonder what they sacrificed in order to ensure that 5 kids all had the opportunity to take piano lessons or pursue their passions. And then one summer, I had a summer job with Salvation Army, and my job was to put on a musical with 100 socioeconomically disadvantaged kids in a week. Wow. And I wasn't the first one to do that, but during those 4 weeks and those 400 kids, it became so obvious that these kids had not necessarily ability, although they did. I saw all kinds of talent, but passion for this and joy. And I just went, this is a shame. I know they get stuff in school, but there's nothing like that extra outside of school thing. It complements school. It does so much for their self-esteem, but also just to give them a positive sense of self. And so when I came home from that job, I could not get rid of the image of these kids. And that's when our conversation happened. And it was actually you that said, just do something about this. And I didn't quite know how to approach it. So with the blessing of the food bank board, we moved my grandmother's piano into the basement, and another friend and I just started piano lessons. And we didn't call it Arts for All Kids, we just called it the piano club kids. And we had six, and I put 3 bums on a bench in the basement and gave a lesson while my friend did some little music games in theory upstairs, and then they switched. And then Arts for All Kids has grown out of the idea that other people have passions. I'd seen that before, but I got a call from a woman who said, I'm a poet. And she said, I heard about what you're doing. I have no idea how she heard about us because we were so small. And she said, I'd like to teach your kids poetry. So the first additional art was creative writing, and I wasn't sure it would happen. The kids loved her. They did haiku on all kinds of things. And then someone else came forward and wanted to do visual art. And I just kept saying yes to these artistic friends of mine who just wanted to volunteer somewhere. And all of a sudden I realized that artists don't have if they're a professional artist, there's not a whole lot of room for volunteering because they really have to go like go like mad just to make a living, right? But they wanted a chance to give back a little bit. It's what I really admire and respect about the artistic community. They never fail to come through that way. And all of a sudden, we had 5 disciplines: dance, drama, creative writing, visual art, and music. We expanded from just having piano to a friend who worked in Orchestra London came and said, I want to do something with your organization. So he started the violin program. And then a number of years later, we had a young volunteer, who really only was with us for one session, so from September to December, and kept saying, if you ever want to start guitar, I'd love to do guitar. And unfortunately, at Christmas that year, he was in a very serious car accident, and he ended up passing away.
Yeah.
It was devastating, just this young soul. But he lived with his aunt and uncle, and his aunt called me and said, we want to direct the memorial donations to Arts for All Kids, because he could not stop talking about the program. Mm-hmm. So I said to her, then we will do what he wanted, and we'll start a guitar program. So now we have piano, violin, and guitar. So it's just grown into something that I could never have imagined. And it's there's nothing like it. The kids themselves, to see the joy on their face, to see the parents feel so happy that they could actually give their kids this opportunity where they might want to, but there's just not the financial resource. And then to watch the kids grow and develop. We're now at the point where we've had whole families of kids come through the program, and a lot of those kids come back to volunteer.
Yeah. I think for us as a food bank, Karen, I mean, that was 3 decades ago. Or how many years about that, right?
I think we're in our 33rd year.
Right.
It was 1988 that we started.
Yeah. And the food bank started 35 years ago, so it was right there near the beginning. But I think for us as a board, and for Jane and myself, I think we realized this is a value-added thing that we could give to the community, right? That, like, these are professional musicians like yourself and others, and we knew from interviewing families that they really wanted their kids to get these kind of lessons, and they just couldn't afford it. So I think it's important to say from the outside, we don't see this as kind of a peripheral thing that the food bank does. We do a number of things like that. But this one is key to us, not just because it's you and because you've been with us for so long, but we are understanding that it's a really hard situation for people in low income to even be able to afford piano lessons. How do they practice at home? All of those kind of things. But I know you're teaching dance, and there's poetry and all those things. Like, I think we really feel as a food bank, this is one of our great things that we do. And that's why although it's kind of under the food bank in that sense, because we wanted to give you a home, we really have nothing to do with it. It's you guys that run it, and it's so great. And, we really appreciate it. And I will say it is kind of funny. Like, I was to the food bank the other day, and I went into the kitchen where our staff would normally be sitting and having lunch and stuff. And there are the ballet bars or the dance bars up against the wall with the mirrors. There's one wall that's all mirrors. Right. And I turned around and looked at myself and shocked by what I saw. But anyway, I just realized you had to kind of fit within all the movement of the food bank over the years. Yeah. Right? It's not easy. There's this coming and going all the time. And then we moved buildings a number of years ago and came into this one. But somehow you've been able to make it work, right? Has that part been hard, the adjusting to all the food bank operations going on in the building?
It's challenging. I don't mind the challenge, to be honest, because I love the uniqueness of the partnership of Arts for All Kids and the food bank. You just don't hear that. I know that you talk to people who go, you have an arts program. So sometimes it is challenging, only because I'm very aware that we're only there for a very specific time period. And I know it's not when the food bank is open, but we don't want to interfere with what's happening there as well. So it's just a matter of talking it through with people and saying, well, would this work and would this work? And my teaching experience, I discovered that one of the things I'm actually really good at fitting in, because in schools you are constantly, and as an arts teacher in a school, it's kind of something always comes up and you have to make it on the spot, make an adjustment. So it is something that I feel like I was trained for in some ways, and also because of the school experience, understanding how to work with everybody, how to fit in, how not to interfere too much, but also being able to say, but I do need this. So it's actually a challenge that I don't mind. It's kind of like a puzzle, and I like puzzles. So I've just really appreciated that the food bank has never, ever said, well, time's up, you have to go. I love our association. So the challenge is a good one. So I won't say that it's always easy, but it's one, it always seems to sort itself out.
Yeah, I think we as the food bank, we've sectored that whole section of the food bank off, the different rooms and the other things. And I think that's a sign too of our commitment to you and Brian, your husband, and the others that are volunteering and helping, because I think that's got nothing to do really with giving out food to people or food security or whatever it is. It's about poverty, right? And the lack of choices that people in poverty have. And I think we very much understand that you're giving people those choices. Now, I think I heard from somebody that I know during the pandemic it's been hard, so maybe you can talk about that for a bit. But I did hear, was it last week or the week before, you had 40 kids? You have that right?
We're back up to, well, that's not our highest number before, but we're back up to 40, I think it's 45 kids.
But this is the pandemic, so how do you manage that?
Well, when the pandemic hit, I kind of took my cue from the schools. I kind of watched how they approached, and of course, they took all their classes online, which was huge learning curve for all the teachers in the school. By that point, I'm retired, so I was never exactly the tech guru. So in the first summer of the pandemic, I called all of our existing families and said, "Would you like to keep your lessons going in the fall? We'll put it online." And I didn't open it up to new students at that point because I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah. So I knew that these families understood how the program worked, and it would make it just that little bit easier. So it did mean our numbers dropped, but we use Google Classroom, and the kids know how to use it. They use it in school, so they use that. The volunteers, if they didn't know how, we took them through some tutorial. Evelyn Graham, who does our webpage and our social media, she was very helpful because she's very good at tech. So all the classes now run online. Music is challenging because all of them are challenging. You'd rather be in person with the kids, to be perfectly honest, but to teach piano and violin and guitar online is a challenge. But all the kids in the families want is that sense of normalcy. Yeah. And then this year, we decided we would open it up again. And the issue was, we traditionally put flyers through schools in the Thames Valley Board. The Thames Valley always gives us permission to do that, but they're not taking paper. Yeah. And because of the pandemic. So we did some electronic flyers, and then I contacted a number of schools and asked if they would put it in. And in the fall, because they were just coming back in person, a lot of it got lost. So we got some kids, and I wasn't sure if, it's one of those moments where you kind of think, is the idea over? Right? So, but at Christmas, I thought, no, I'm going to put the flyers out again and see what happens. So we did it at Christmas, and we went from like 20 kids to 45 kids within 2 weeks. And a lot of them are, which I'm very happy to see, we have a lot of new immigrant families who are looking for something for their kids. And and I had to get more piano teachers, and our visual art class exploded. so we're trying to work through all of that, but it shows, I just went, okay, so it's not an idea that's run its course. It's something that is really, really needed in the community. So
I think it's fantastic that you've done that, because these are voluntary things. It's not a school that a kid has to go to. This is something that they want, so they sign up. Yep. So that shows a real interest there. Also, I know that over the years, Karen, you sometimes had the kids give performances or be part of performances. Can you just talk about that a bit?
As far as being part of performances, the kids have performed. Some of the kids have performed with Orchestra London in a children's concert. They have gone to things like the Arts Project downtown and done some performances there. When we had people who were doing a show and wanted to highlight the kids, so we brought different kids down every evening. They were the pre-show, but also when we hit landmarks, so like the 25th anniversary anniversary and the 30th anniversary, we took them to Wolf Hall. And for a lot of these kids, they had never seen a professional stage. The kids who played piano had never, ever touched a grand piano, and they got to play on a grand piano. And we highlighted everything. All the classes took part, all the violins, all of the, the drama, even the creative writing. They got up and read their stories. And I discovered that that's we want to keep that a special thing. But two little guys that came in and we just affectionately called them Frick and Frack because they were like little tornadoes, and they're twins. And one of them came into the top door of Wolf Hall, and he yelled for his brother, and I can't remember their names, but he goes, "Joe, come here, it's huge." and they said, "We didn't even know this was here." So, but we also provide them usually. We haven't done this; has been harder online, but we usually have an open house at the end of each session, and the parents are allowed to come in. We shorten the classes, and they attend the classes with the kids and see what they're doing in class. And then we get them all together in the front area of the food bank, and the dancers dance and the violins play, and we do a few little things like that. And then they register for the next session. It's like a big party, and it's the only time we ask the parents for something. We asked them to bring food. So that the kids can have a little snack. And everybody loves it. And sometimes some guests come to see, parents of volunteers come and go, "I had no idea they were doing this." And then the biggest one, that it's becoming the biggest one, is we do have an annual fundraising concert called Broadway with a Twist.
Great show. Yeah,
it's a great show. And my husband he puts the show together. We couldn't do it without him. He does all of the arrangements, but always at some point in the show, we bring some of the kids in. So I know we've had them dance. We had some dancers. And then the last time we were able to do the show, we had the kids from the new musical theater program sing. And it also gave them a chance to see that here are grown-ups doing what they're doing, but they're grown up. It's a lifelong thing that they can pursue. It's a wonderful opportunity for them that way, and it makes them even more excited about what they're doing.
So with Broadway with a Twist, the last two of them that you've had, I've spoken at. These are at the Wolf Theater downtown, right?
Yep.
And I've spoken at them and talk about how much this program means to the community. But it's hilarious because you can just tell the audience is waiting. Hurry up, Glenn, we want to hear from the kids. Right? So,
I don't think that's true, but
it is. Can we talk for a second just practically? So I'm a kid, I'm 12 years old or whatever it is, and I want to learn piano, I want to learn guitar, but I don't have one. So how do I practice? What do you do there? How do you solve that problem?
We provide the instruments.
Okay.
Now, pre-COVID, we didn't do that necessarily for the piano students. In the beginning, we had purchased some electronic lab, a secondary electronic lab, with the idea of putting those in kids' homes. But at that time, it didn't work. Recently, we were the recipients of an incredible donation from Music Counts. We made an application, and so we purchased a new piano lab because we were using the same one that we've used all these years, and it was starting to die. So what we've done in COVID, group piano lessons in COVID are not possible. So actually every kid who's playing piano now gets a private lesson online. And so that means that's a whole different kettle of fish. So we took the old piano lab and some of the other electronic pianos we have, and we've placed them in the kids' homes. And so that they can practice, they can have their lesson. And we're finding at this point, I thought maybe that was the key, is the teacher zooming in every week to give them a lesson. They're taking much better care of the instruments, and they're actually doing, although it was a shock to their system to find out that we actually expected them to practice. The London Community Foundation has been phenomenal to us, and we've gotten grants from them. We got a grant from them for the piano lab, and we also got a grant from them to start the violins. And Music Counts also provided us with more violins so that every kid has their own instrument to practice at home. And the same with the guitars. I was actually surprised when we started it that it's pretty cost effective to do a guitar program. Not as easy to find the teachers per se, but so the kids, we keep track of who has what instrument, et cetera, but the kids have the instrument in their hands. And every once in a while, somebody comes forward and they want to donate an instrument. And so we will kind of figure out which kids are really taking off. We want to make sure if someone's doing that, that we place it in the hands of a child who's not going to let it sit and have dust in the corner. So we make sure that they have what they need. And right now with COVID, the same thing holds for even not instruments, for visual art. They all have their own bag of stuff and creative writing, so that everybody has COVID-free and their very own package.
I remember a couple of years ago, the Grand Theatre always does December for us as a food bank, as you know, had people volunteer, but they did a Christmas Carol for a couple of years. And of course, a lot of the story of A Christmas Carol is about poverty. Like Bob Cratchit and his family and trying to make their way through the Victorian era, right? It was difficult. And I remember the cast at the Grand were really into it. And Jane and I talked to them once about it. And so they were curious about the food bank and how it worked. And they eventually came down and volunteered for a day. And they wore their outfits that they wore at Christmas Carol, which was great. But when they heard about Arts for All Kids, they were kind of shocked. You know, they don't put that thing together. And then I think we did run into somebody that actually had been through your program, or it helped with it, or part of it. You would remember that more than I would. But they talked just about what chance would we have had? How could we have ever got to this level if we didn't have that when we were young?
Yeah.
And she was really powerful, right? And I think that's really true. By the time, you know, kids who are in low income and can't do it, by the time they get to the point where they might be ready, they're already at something of a disadvantage from other kids who've been able to do it. That would be right, in your situation with the kids.
Yeah. And yeah, it's true. If a child has our kids are different. Like, they're not, and I say that because a kid whose passion lies in an artistic vein is not that they're not interested in sports, but they are different that way.
Yeah.
And they, if they have even an inkling in their mind that they want to go in that direction with their life, whether it's teaching or just for themselves, like community theater people or playing community orchestra, there's very little hope of that happening. The schools do a fantastic job. We're very fortunate that Thames Valley is so supportive of the arts. They have been historically, but it's not enough. There's not enough time. And so when you get a kid who this is what they want to do, or they just need exposure, sometimes they just had no idea that they would love this. I really want to paint, right? So I think that's true.
Yeah. You know, I was going to say, Karen, sorry if I interrupted you there, but when I think of the food bank, of course, it's been in my fiber for 35 years, and in Jane's as well, and in yours. But we've always looked at this as philosophically, wouldn't you say, that, you know, we look at the food bank and we know that the aspect of what we are doing is the food side of it. Mm-hmm. But now when I look at it as the food bank has moved along, we've got into urban agriculture to try to move that thing forward. Jane has helped with the Food Policy Council and helping with that. And, you know, so there are these other things we do, because our philosophy is that you've got to kind of surround poverty with these kind of supports that are really necessary. But we've arrived at that point because we've been able to do that over the years. But at the food bank, we started with this when it came to Arts for All Kids. And I think what you gave to the food bank at this time, I think, is soul. You know, I mean, we're out there, we're helping, everybody's doing all they can. We've got 2,000 volunteers, you know, it's wonderful. Yeah. All of these things are happening, but you and Brian and the volunteers, you gave it soul. Right? You help to say, look at, okay, kids are hungry. That's just a natural thing. But it's also natural that kids want to aspire and succeed. And it's also true that kids love music, right? All different kinds of whatever it is, but you've given them that opportunity. I think what you've done for the food bank is that you've given us kind of a mirror in which we look at ourselves and we see, you know what, we're doing more because we can, because of Brian and Karen, and that's wonderful. But I hope you understand, Karen, that from our point of view, and I mean, you're there at the board meetings and we talk about Arts for All Kids, whatever you need, they're there, right? That's just the way that they're going to be. But it's because you've got to our soul as well. It's not just about the kids. I think you've helped us to understand poverty in more of a kaleidoscopic way, as opposed to a telescope where we're just focusing on one thing. That's what Arts for All Kids has done for the food bank. That's outside of all that you've done for the community and for over 3 decades. I think it's about soul. It's an amazing thing. I wanted to ask, is that how you feel Or do you feel more just like as a teacher and you got an assignment and you're going to get going? How has it affected you?
I appreciate the compliment. I don't think I've ever thought of our place in the food bank as giving the food bank soul. I think that for me, I've thought that the food bank itself, and because of the philosophy that it runs under for all of the programs that's come and gone, et cetera, that the soul of it is just like we ran is, and I think I learned this from you guys, is Arts for All Kids has become what it is because I said yes. Mm-hmm. I want to teach poetry, yes. I want to teach art, yes. And I think it's mutual that we look at what the food bank is doing, and we've gained from that philosophy, and it's allowed Arts for All Kids to become something that no one could have imagined. As far as our, I think I don't see Arts for All Kids as an assignment ever. There have been times through the years where I've taught all day long, and now I'm going to go to Arts for All Kids, and I'm like, I'm so tired. Yeah. But when I get there, I think the thing that I see every single time I come in, it is housed in the kids themselves. They're a microcosm of what the food bank does and what I believe the arts do within the community. When you watch the kids come in, and even if they've had a terrible day at school, and they come in and we might have to help them settle a little bit, and then they get busy doing the thing that they love, and the joy and the excitement, and to see and I tell people, I do it for the smiles. Had a little guy last night have his first piano lesson, and I had a young piano teacher, so I was in the lesson with them online, and he kept saying, "Can I show you? I know this and I know this." And she did a great job of pulling him back and saying, "Okay, let's do this now." But I just watched him. I laughed out loud several times. I had my mic off, so I didn't throw him off. I think that's what it is to see that happen within the kids. And it is part of, as you said earlier about the food bank, it's part of my fiber now and my being. I can't imagine it not being there, and I can't imagine not being able to access that energy from them. And I think when I am down at the food bank itself, when it's not Arts for All Kids, you see that in the volunteers. They might not fully understand it, but they get something from what they're doing and the camaraderie and the way that the food bank runs. So I really admire and respect that, and hope that we have been able to produce that within Arts for All Kids itself. So the fact that you would say we're the soul of the food bank is an extreme compliment. And I just see it as, I love doing this, and this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. We don't see it as a program. We see it as a soulish exercise, right? That the food bank is only housing. It's you that's doing all the work. But I do think it's quite something to meet with the person at the Grand who had come up through the program, was able to finally reach that level. That's a wonderful thing. And people always look at that as a real accomplishment. But the real accomplishment is that kids are able to learn music and arts and other things, whether they go on with it or not. Like, I think of my life as a young man or as a boy, music was a huge part of it, right? Even if I didn't follow that as I got older, it helps to make us who we are. And that's what you're doing. And I think that's the major accomplishment, is not that one of that group will suddenly end up at the Grand or something. It's the fact that all of them were able to get music training and the other things. I think it's a wonderful thing that you've done, Karen. And we really appreciate it as a food bank. We do.
Thank you. And I agree with that. And even as a teacher, that was always my philosophy. It wasn't my job to turn my students into professional musicians. It was my job to use what I do to help them in their growing up experience.
Yeah.
And, and it's the same with Arts for All Kids. There's one story about a young man that came to us and wanted to play violin, and he loved it, and he's never going to play. He's very tight in his hands and stuff, but it didn't matter that he wasn't necessarily progressing fast. The violin became vital to him, and I ran into one of his teachers, and sometimes he would have problems containing his emotions, and she said they discovered that if he looked like he was on overload at school, they would say to him, "So how was your violin lesson this week?" And he would calm right down.
Yeah.
It brought them right in, and I that is what we want for the kids. We want them to have it's a tool, it's an experience, and it also, for some of our kids, it might be the only time in their life that somebody said to them, "You're really good at that."
Yeah, that's right. And for me, you know, I think I see poverty as a family story, not as a kid's story. I know we sectorize those kind of things at times, but really it must be hard. Like, as you know, we adopted 3 kids from Sudan, but let's say we couldn't afford to give them anything like that. I would feel somewhat constrained as a parent, or that I was failing as a parent because because the circumstances beyond my control. I don't have the resources necessary to get them these lessons. So I think this is a family issue of what you're doing at Arts for All Kids. I mean, those parents have to be delighted, that somebody has given their kids that opportunity. So I see that as a family issue, and I think you've approached it that way. It's a wonderful thing, Karen. Thanks so much for what you've done for the community. And it's not a niche thing that you're doing, right? You've been doing it for over 3 decades. It's an amazing thing. Thank you.
I appreciate it. And I do want to say our parents are awesome. They're totally awesome too. Yeah. So, but again, we appreciate that the food bank embraced us, and we wouldn't have, Brian and I wouldn't have been able to do any of this without the food bank doing that. So
we're talking about you, not about the food bank. We appreciate so much what you've done.
Well, I appreciate that too, but it's been great. So
thanks, Karen.
Due to the length of the preceding program, we now join the regularly scheduled program already in progress.
Hey everybody, you know what time it is. It's time for the RTV quiz show. I'm your host, Giovanni Petiti, and you are the luckiest people on the planet because you are watching the best show on television, the RTV quiz show. Thanks to you and all of your feedback, we continue to bring you edutainment week after week after week. Yeah, all right, folks, before we get started, I just want to address the elephant in the room. Of course, last week we had our Oscar special edition, and then the Oscars happened, and everybody's talking about it. I really don't want to address it right here, but it's been all over the news, international news. All the big stars are talking about it. The Oscars is having a big investigation. And of course, people are asking me my opinion, what I think. And all I can say, folks, is honestly, I'm shocked. Just like everybody else, I was bewildered, totally stunned. But there you have it, folks. 15 years in show business, and I still haven't been nominated for an Oscar. And I'm talking about not even being nominated for some of the lame Oscars. The ones nobody cares about, like best lighting. Why didn't this show win for best look? This is good lighting, all right? And then this is me in bad lighting. See? You don't appreciate it until it's not there. We didn't get an Oscar for best special effects, huh? Who can forget these incredible 3D effects, huh? Look, it's coming right at you. And of course, no Academy Award for me for best actor. Who acts better than me? Folks, I act like I want to be here every week. You think I want to be here? I do this show because it's a condition of my parole. Right, time for round 1. All right, the category is baseball lingo. Baseball lingo. Here we go. Which member of the team would be called the skipper? Who is usually called the skipper? I don't know you, but it should be the guy who stranded more runners than Gilligan's Island last year for the Blue Jays. That guy should be called the skipper. Question number 2. What has happened every time a fan hangs a letter K from the stadium railing? Every time. An angel gets its wings. I don't know. Question number 3. If a player leads the league in batting average, home runs, and RBIs in one season, they have won what royal title? What is it called? You win now. Batting average, home runs, and RBIs. What's that called? I was showing off. Question number 4. What is it called when a pitcher makes an illegal move in order to deceive the batter or base runners? An illegal move. To deceive the audience that something actually exciting might happen during this game. Question 5. If the batter hits for the cycle, how many bases have they earned? How many bases? Is it A4, B10, C7, or D9? Hits for the cycle. All right, it's time for round 2. All right, the category is astronomically named. All these answers are named after planets or stars or other heavenly bodies like Paris Hilton. Question number 6. What line of scouring powders and household cleaners are sold in an iconic green can? Named after something astronomical. I don't know that. I don't do much cleaning around my house. I remember once I dusted the entire house, and then like 6 months later, all the dust came back, and I'm just not going to get fooled like that again. I just won't be fooled again. Question number 7. What is the name of the snack cake which was invented in Chattanooga, Tennessee? For those of you that are not familiar with Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's a city with a population of 179,648 people and only 4 last names. I wouldn't worry about it, Larry. It's Tennessee. They don't get this show. They probably watch it, but they definitely don't get it. So don't worry about it. Question number 8. What European Pilsner is named after the Latin word for star? Think of a European star. A beer was a Gina Lola Brigida or something. Ingrid Bergman. I know she was hot, but what a name. Who's this new girl you're seeing? Oh, she's really beautiful. She's really talented. Well, what's her name? Ingrid Bergman. Question number 9. What now defunct auto manufacturer produced vehicles such as the View, the Outlook, and the S series? Car manufacturers that. Question number 10. What production company named for a constellation released movies such as Caddyshack and RoboCop, and RoboCop 2, and RoboCop 3, and RoboCop 4? He was made out of metal, so they just kept recycling. And it's just, it's good for the environment. Those shows. Except for everything they blow up. And all right, it's time for round 1. Round 1 answers. Let's see how you did. If you recall, the first category was baseball lingo. I've got a very important announcement I have to read here. It says, the Blue Jays home opener is this Friday against the Texas Rangers. You can catch all the action on Sportsnet. I'm sure that Sportsnet is plugging his show. I can just picture them like right now. And batters in the box. The pitcher winds up. Fastball high and inside. Speaking of which, you know what's never high and inside? The RTV quiz show every Wednesday at 7:30 on Rogers TV. You want to check that out? Sure, that's happening right now. All right, question number 1 was, which member of the team would be called the skipper? And the answer to that is the manager. The manager is sometimes called the skipper. Question number 2, what has happened every time a fan hangs a letter K from the stadium railing? A strikeout. A strikeout has happened. Well, fun fact, folks, during high school, I led the school in strikeouts. Not for baseball, but... Question number 3, if a player leads the league in batting average, home runs, and RBIs in one season, they have won what royal title? It's called a Triple Crown. Question number 4, what is it called when a pitcher makes an illegal move in order to deceive the batter or the base runner? That's called a balk. Question number 5, if a batter hits for the cycle, how many bases have they earned? The answer is 10. A single, a double, a triple, and a home run. And a very special thank you for that category suggestion from Eva Parker, the manager of the Ronald Street Rascals. It's a baseball team that every year challenges the parents and the kids to an annual baseball game. So thank you, Eva. You're out. Question number 6. What line of scouring powders and household cleaners are sold in an iconic green can? The answer to that is Comet. Comet is the answer. Question number 7. What is the name of a snack cake which was invented in Chattanooga, Tennessee? It's a moon pie. A moon pie. Question number 8. What European Pilsner is named after the Latin word for star? The answer is Stella Artois. I thought Stella Artois was Latin for, who are you trying to impress? Or, when it comes to my group of friends, I don't want to mention any names, but his initials are Gino Frappatella. Stella Artois means it must be somebody else's turn to buy. You know, when it's Gino's turn to buy, it's, let's get a round of Pabst Blue Ribbon, extra light, 2-ounce drafts. Question number 9. Which company produced vehicles such as the Vibe, Outlook, and S-Series? The company was Saturn. Saturn. Question number 10. What production company named for a constellation released such movies as Caddyshack and RoboCop? That's Orion Pictures. Orion Pictures. Folks, we'll be right back with more RTV Quiz Show after this. Don't go away.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
For more information about the vaccine and eligibility, visit healthunit.com. To book an appointment, call the number on your screen or book online at covidvaccinelm.ca.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. Life has changed for all of us during the pandemic, and many people are turning to alcohol and drugs to cope. Even though most of us are staying home more, police across Ontario are seeing an alarming increase in impaired driving and the horrible devastation that goes with it. Now, more than ever, we need your commitment to never drive impaired and to encourage all of your family and friends to do the same. Together, we can save lives.
Hey, welcome back to the RTV Quiz Show, folks, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for making this show such a success. All right, here we go. Round 3. The category is conflict resolution. All right, which we're all hoping for very, very, very soon. All right. I don't know. I got a feeling that if women ruled more countries, there would be no wars. Just a bunch of countries not talking to each other. I think would. Question 11. What nation formally surrendered during a ceremony aboard the USS Missouri on September 2nd, 1945, bringing an end to World War II? What nation was it? A, Germany, B, Russia, C, Japan, or D, Italy? Question number 12. What 10-week war between Argentina and the UK ended with Argentine surrender on June 14th, 1982? 10-week war. That's in my house. That's not a war. Even in my house, a 10-week argument is a squabble, a spat, a misunderstanding, a dust-up, a ruckus. 10 weeks. I wish half of our fights would end in 10 weeks. You kidding me? Question 13. The signing of the Treaty of Paris on September 3rd 1783 brought an end to what 8-year conflict? That's more like it. 8 years. That's a good fight. 8-year conflict. Question 14. What is the name of the treaty that ended the War of 1812? Was it A, the Treaty of York, B, the Treaty of Portsmouth, C, the Camp David Accords, or D, the Treaty of Ghent? Ghent. The G is silent. The H is silent. Then why do they have it? Question 15. The longest recorded conflict in history ended after 781 years with the fall of the Moorish stronghold in Granada. What was the name of this war? Now that's a fight, 781 years. That's the length of an average fight between me and my wife, okay? Okay, folks, that's not true, okay? We've been married for 25 years and we've only had one fight in our entire marriage. It just happened the last 24 and a half years, that's all. That one's for my wife! Right, time for round 4. All right, the category is material world. So this category has everything to do with like material, like types of cloth, all right? So here we go. Question 16, what formal garment is traditionally made of twill woven wool with a set of color pattern called a tartan? What's that called? Question number 17, what is the oldest known natural fiber? It was derived from the flax plant and was often used to make the burial shrouds of Egyptian pharaohs. What's that called? Folks, is it just me, or am I the only one that was devastated to find out that the Egyptian national anthem sounds nothing like the 1986 hit song by the Bengals, Walk Like an Egyptian? No, 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 no. And don't even bother looking up the national anthem from Panama. Question 18, what style of boot switched from leather to vulcanized rubber in the mid-1850s? Wow. Switched from leather to vulcanized rubber in the 1850s. And they're still talking about it. There's still a lot of buzz. Question 19, from what animal does Angora wool come from? From what animal does Angora wool come from? I was surprised to see this one. I was surprised. Question number 20. What synthetic fiber is made from regenerated cellulose and is sometimes known as artificial silk? Is it A, rayon, B, nylon, C, polyester, or D, suede? You know, that reminds me, when I was in grade 6, my science project, I got 2 silkworms and raced them to see which one could make the most silk. In the end, they wound up in a tie. Right, time for round 3 answers. All right, let's see how you did. The category was conflict or resolution. Brought to you by Marriage, the only institution where you sleep with the enemy. Question number 11, what nation formally surrendered during a ceremony aboard the USS Missouri? That was C, Japan. Japan. It was a boat called the Missouri. It could be worse. They could have made the Japanese go to Missouri, where they would show them the arch, and then they would all have to pretend like they were impressed. Oh, it's arch. It's an arch. Wow. That's something. Question number 12. What 10-week war between Argentina and the UK ended with Argentina surrendering on the 14th of June, 1982? That was the Falklands War. Fun fact here says that before declaring war, Margaret Thatcher said that the Falkland Islands are not necessary to the British Empire, but will be defended anyway. Kind of like male nipples, I guess. All right, question 13. Let's see if you got this. The signing of the Treaty of Paris on September 3rd, 1783, brought the end to what 8-year conflict? That was the American Revolutionary War. I didn't know that they signed it in Paris. Question 14. What was the name of the treaty that ended the War of 1812? That was D, the Treaty of Ghent. Okay. Question 15. The longest recorded conflict in history ended after 781 years with the fall of the Moorish stronghold in Granada. What was the name of this war? The Reconquista. The Reconquista. Question 16. What formal garment is traditionally made of twill woven wool? And it has a pattern in it called a tartan. What is that called? A kilt. Kilt. I don't care what anybody says. Those Scottish guys are tough for wearing that, huh? Would you wear a skirt in a country where the thistles grow waist high? You know what I mean? Just say. Question 17. What is the oldest known natural fiber and is often used to make burial shrouds for Egyptian pharaohs? That's a linen. Linen is the answer. Question 18. What style of boot switched from leather to vulcanized rubber in the mid-1850s? That was Wellington boots. Wellington boots. Question number 19. I did not know this. From what animal does Angora wool come from? The answer is rabbits. Did you know that? Question 20. What synthetic fiber is made from regenerated cellulose and is sometimes known as artificial silk? That's rayon. Rayon. And we'll be back with more RTV quiz show after this. Double point answers coming up.
Shannon Woolley, host of Batter Up Beachville on Rogers TV. Join myself and Doug Harris as we learn more about the first recorded baseball game in Beachville. Watch it on Rogers Cable, rogerstv.com. Thanks for watching.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the community billboard.
Jeff from Chillin' and Grillin' with Jeff, and we're back with Season 3. This season, we've had the opportunity to see some great backyards, to have some fantastic food cooked on some great grills, and this season, we're helping you take your barbecue game up by adding some great barbecue tips from some local experts on anything from spices to knife care and using the proper wood to smoke some great food. Join us, Chillin' and Grillin' with Jeff, Season 3.
Join us for the Learners Healthcare Champions Virtual Awards Gala on April 21st at 7 p.m. as we reveal our 2022 Healthcare Champions Award recipients. Register now at healthcarechampions.learners.ca.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Mario Elia, and I'm the host of a new show here on Rogers TV that we're calling Keeping London Healthy with Dr. Mario. So tune in Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. and we'll see you then.
Welcome back to the RTV Quiz Show. This is round 5, double. I repeat, double point answers. All right. The category is April Fools. Fools. That means all the answers have the letters O-O-L in them altogether. O-O-L in them. Before we get started, folks, let me give you a little hint here. April Fools is an excellent time to propose to your girlfriend. All right. You feeling the pressure? You pick April Fools. Basically because, if you change your mind 3 or 4 weeks later, you can just go, April Fools! April Fools! I stretched that out a bit there. I can't believe you fell for it. On the knee and everything. Give me back the ring. Don't worry. You look silly. You do. Question 21. What reoccurring musical segment on The Late Late Show with James Corden features celebrity guests in high occupancy situations? What's that segment called? Remember, the answer has a OOL in them. Question 22. What is the term for the scientific study of animals? Oh, speaking of animal studies, folks, here we got a little study released by the University of Waterloo, which says that they did a study which indicates that humans eat more bananas than monkeys. I believe that. I can't remember the last time I ate a monkey. So, my case is probably true. Question number 23. What is the last name of the princess in Nintendo's Super Mario franchise? I never understood that. Mario's got to go through the tunnels and gets whacked on the head, and he's got to collect all this money and risk his life for hours and hours, and he gets to the castle, he finally releases it, and he gets a kiss on the cheek. This guy. She's really not that hot. Question 24. What type of semi-oxidized Chinese tea leaf is used in dragon's milk tea? My favorite. All right, question 25. What is the term for the 8.5 by 13.5 inch paper that was commonly used in the British Commonwealth before the adoption of the international standard A4 paper? What was that paper called? Now, speaking of paper, for some reason, my wife this week decided to save money by buying 1-ply toilet tissue. Just fantastic. I guess she just wants me to spend a lot of time getting to know the inner me. You know what I'm saying? All right, time for round 5. Round 5 answers, all right? Again, the category is April Fools. All the answers have OOL in the answers. Here we go. What reoccurring musical segment on The Late Late Show features celebrity guests? Now it's called carpool karaoke. Question 22. What is a term for the scientific study of animals? That's zoology. Question 23. What is the last name of the princess in the Nintendo Super Mario game? Toadstool. Princess Toadstool. What? Really? I'm glad I never got to the castle now. Question 24. What type of semi-oxidized Chinese tea leaf is used in dragon's milk tea? That's called oolong. This has got to be the most dangerous job on the planet. The guy who's got to get the dragon's milk for this. Imagine he's got to go into the cave and the dragon is like spitting fire. He brings his own little cup here and he starts bringing. And question number 25. What's the term for the 8.5 by 13 inch paper that was commonly used in the British Commonwealth? That's foolscap. Foolscap. And if you were like me in elementary school, folks, you wrote out a lot of lines on those, eh? I will not be late for class. I will not be late for... I will not waste paper. I will not waste paper. I will not miss the next episode of RTV Quiz Show. And until next time, folks, you stay safe, you stay calm, and you stay nice.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
It isn't the heavy trays that make the job difficult, or the fast pace you need to keep up. It's not working another double because someone called in sick. What makes the job tough is the moment you realize a customer has had enough and you have to make that decision not to overserve. Refusing service isn't personal, it's the law. We know it's not easy, but we're counting on you to keep us all safe. Thank you, servers, for doing the tough job.
Calling all journalism students. Omni Television is once again awarding scholarships to qualified students pursuing a career in third language journalism.
I am very grateful to be one of the recipients of the Omni